What's up, guys? I want to do a different video here, kind of explain. We've got a bunch of new followers, explain who I am, and kind of what I think's going on in this conflict currently, Russia-Ukraine conflict. I've just got a handful of my Ukraine videos up behind me, pictures, just random stuff while I talk here. So, real quick, my name is Saxon. I went by Vegas in the International Legion. I joined the International Legion for the defense of Ukraine, January 2023. I'm still in Ukraine. I'm no longer in the International Legion. I'm doing a handful of different things, including just trying to make some content and raise some funds for some of the guys who are out on the front, and just the overall, hopefully, victory of Ukraine. Um, so, background on me: I was a firefighter and EMT for a few years outside of Fort Worth, Texas, before the war kicked off. When the war started, I wanted to help. I did not plan on fighting. I wanted to help with my EMT license, so I bought a one-way ticket to Ukraine and did some basically door knocking on hospitals and stuff, trying to see how I could help. I spent 10 days in country with no luck finding anywhere that I could really volunteer. I went to Kyiv. I went from Lviv, which is western Ukraine, to Kyiv, the capital in the central Ukraine, all the way to Kharkiv, which is the closest major city to the front in eastern Ukraine. Finally, someone told me you should join the International Legion. That's how you can help the most. So I went there, I applied, I did an interview. They accepted me and they put me in position as a combat medic in the International Legion. So I did training and then deployed to the front line. Here is an example of that, where I was for a couple of months and till I left. So real quick, we've got a ton of new followers here, and I appreciate all the love you guys are subscribers. Any content that I'm making, for the most part, does not get monetized because it has to do with the conflict. So just any comments and shares and likes is just greatly appreciated. This is my primary gig here. This is how I'm supporting myself and also trying to give back to the guys who are still out there on the front and any other Ukrainian units that I worked with out on the front. I'm waiting for my buddy Tex, who was on the front with me. He was my platoon commander. We're about to meet up and go meet our other buddy Peru, who is now in the hospital because he got his entire leg blown off on the front, and they just transferred him here to where I'm currently at in a hospital center. So, one thing I wanted to cover in this video is my entire purpose of starting this channel initially was to be as transparent about the Russian Ukraine war and also as transparent about my experience as a foreign fighter in Ukraine. There's a lot of misconceptions regarding being a foreign fighter in Ukraine and what it's like and how dangerous it is. I don't know how that got in here, sorry. That's strange. So off the rip, right? I just want to say this: it's extremely dangerous anywhere in the combat area in Ukraine, whether it's International Legion or a different unit, which Azov, Kraken, gosh, there's so many. Da Vinci's Wolves. There's so many different units out here now that take a lot of international or foreign fighters. No matter what, it's dangerous as shit. Okay, I don't want to give any exact percentages on probability of you getting hurt, but they're very high, right? I'm willing to say the people who I deployed with to the front line, roughly half of them have been injured or are dead, if not more, if not more. So when you join the International Legion, it is an infantry unit, specifically infantry. So when you come in, you will basically be given a crash course of a couple months of basic combat training, troop movements, things to know in the current combat, landmines, weapons, things like this. Then they ship you off and you do infantry work. You hold trenches, primarily, probably foxholes, hold positions, defend. On occasion, you'll go on certain assaults. It's dirty. It's cold if it's during the winter. It's boring at times, but it's an extremely important job. So, with that said, there are some higher speed units like the ones I mentioned, Azov or Kraken, or what a lot of the guys who I was in the Legion with, who were not injured or killed, they ended up going to GUR, which is kind of like almost like a special forces element of the International Legion. They are going to be going on much more assaults, more aggressive missions than, say, what I did on the front. Also, with that comes more casualties. More people are dying in these units. More people are getting wounded. So keep that in mind. There's a common misconception that Ukraine is fighting a bunch of, just barbaric, low life ex-cons with no combat experience, and it's like fighting zombies, which in certain parts of the front line, this could be the case, but I will say the enemy is much more competent and much more capable than you would probably realize, or at least that the Western media is portraying. There are some serious Russian military units out there that will kick your ass if you are not paying attention. And they will, I mean, you just don't underestimate the enemy, right? You hear that all the time, but it's very important on this one, in this conflict, just because of how the media is portraying the Russian military. So, with that said, I also wanted to. This is completely off topic, but any of my followers or subscribers who are in danger of Hurricane Milton, if you have a chance, let us know in the comments that you are okay, or let us know what's going on. That is probably one of the gnarliest looking hurricanes I've ever seen from satellite images. Milton, I believe, I mean, it's a Cat 5, right? Last I checked. I haven't looked at the news this morning yet, but I heard it developed and it got way more serious overnight, and it was already serious before that. So let us know you're okay in the comments. Shoot me an email if, maybe I can help. I don't know. My email is in my bio, YouTube bio or whatever. Now, the next part that I wanted to kind of drill down on, which is important to me to portray, because again, I want to be as candid and as transparent as possible, is the fact that Ukraine is not winning this war. It breaks my heart to say that, right? Because I've lost friends on the front. I've seen so many Ukrainians die out on the front, and their families were just devastated and their lives will never be the same. And it'd be so much easier for me to say, yes, and their lives did not perish in vain because Ukraine is winning this and we're sticking it to them. And simply not the case. I'm not going to say anybody who has died in this conflict on the Ukrainian side has died in vain, of course, because every life has served a purpose in this conflict for defending this country and the civilians and the people, and really the rest of Europe, in my opinion, and the free world. But that's a little bit deeper of a topic. The truth is, Russia has more manpower, they have more supplies, they're getting much more backing from North Korea and China and Iran than the Western media is leading on. There is constant supplies being given by this axis of what we call axis of evil, right? There are tons of munitions, artillery, mortar, vehicles coming from these other countries that I'm willing to say it's more than Ukraine is getting from all of its Western allies. Now, it seems like the Western support for Ukraine is kind of on a downslope, especially after after the conflict in Israel and Palestine kind of exploded more, especially after October 7th. The spotlight was kind of taken off of Ukraine and Russia, moved over to the Middle East. And now we have an election coming up in the U.S., right, which is kind of causing its big politicians and big decisions are being put on hold until this election is done and over with, because they don't want these decisions to affect the outcome of the election. So Ukraine is struggling. They're struggling. When I was there, I haven't been on the front in over a year, but when I was on the front, we were already struggling for supplies, ammunition, food, water, all that stuff. It was already a struggle. Now it's way worse. Vehicles, manpower. The surviving soldiers who are still able to survive and fight are exhausted, and they probably shouldn't even be out there, frankly, because they may be more of a danger to themselves or their team because of how exhausted they are, or partially injured. So that's really what I wanted to clear up, that Russia has pretty much more of everything: supplies, manpower, everything, and they are winning this war of attrition. It's a battle of meters and kilometers, right? But Russia's winning more of these than Ukraine. And they're if you're watching very closely, and you've got any of these maps, these deep state, different sites or applications that show you the occupied territory that Russia has taken. Russia's taking more and more and more. And at this time last year, I was in Kharkiv, which, like I said, is the biggest major city east of Ukraine, or the largest city to the front, closest to the front. But last year when I was there, the bars were open and people were going to restaurants and going to work. And yes, there were still strikes and it was still dangerous, right? But people were living their lives 100%. Now it's not like that. People have, again, abandoned Kharkiv. There's much more strikes. The Russians are, they're basically knocking on the door of Kharkiv again, which is bad, bad news. So, again, I'm kind of harping on the same topics because none of this is covered very well in the media that I watch, Western media, whatever site you get your news from. For the most part, it's portraying this conflict through rose-colored glasses, right? And that's not how it's going. I just want to make this real quick, kind of give a background of myself to new subscribers, say thank you guys so much, and also just portray what's really happening out here. I don't want to get anything twisted. I 100% stand with the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian armed forces. Fuck Russia. Fuck Putin. Do not get me wrong, okay? There's no confusion here, but I am going to be as honest as I can be always with you guys. I love you. I got another video coming up. See you then.